All right. What's going on, guys? Big Spoon here, and we're back for another video. Today, we got something special. Something really special to talk about. So, today, we are going to be talking about the Animal Crossing series. So, we're going to be going through all the games, starting with the first Animal Crossing all the way up to New Horizons. We're going to be looking at each one individually. We're going to be comparing them. We're going to be just taking a trip down memory lane, talking about a few different topics of each game, such as the graphics of each game, the sound, the gameplay, and encompassing the gameplay, we're going to be talking about the buildings, the features, the multiplayer, if they have any, which we know the first game didn't, and then also replay value. So we're going to be hitting on those topics, and so let's jump right into it. Whenever I'm talking about these topics, you guys can feel free to type in your comments. I'm going to read them off as we go. I'm going to share your thoughts and opinions, whatever you type in, so let's go. Starting out with the first Animal Crossing game, we have the gameplay right here on the screen, and by the way, I want to give credit real fast to a few YouTubers for using this this footage. This is miruku-chan. We have Japan Commercials for You Too. We have Caticulated and Kotaku. So credit to those guys for using this footage. And here we go. So talking about the first Animal Crossing game real fast. This is the footage of it. This goes back to the GameCube days. If you guys might have played this, if you haven't, here's gameplay of it right now. This was actually first released on the Nintendo 64. I believe it was actually released on the GameCube back in 2001. But let's talk about the graphics real fast. And if you guys have anything to say about it, just let me know in the comment section. And you guys can feel free to let me know what you think about the graphics. But on first glance, you can see it's very generic. And you know, you can see the fence line right here that I'm pointing out with my cursor. It's pretty flat. So, and then we can see a lot of pixelation. And back in these days, there wasn't a whole lot of detail you could put into this game. But nonetheless, I mean, the colors, it's very vibrant, very colorful. It's very simplistic. And I like the way it looks. I mean, I grew up with this game. This was my first Animal Crossing game that I ever played. And to me, the graphics looked appealing back then. But nowadays, if you look back at it, of course, it looks pretty old school. What do you guys have to say about the graphics? What do you guys think about it? What are your thoughts on it? Let me kind of fast forward a little bit in this video so we can kind of get a look at the bigger world around us. So yeah, you can take a look at the items here. Got a lot of pixelation going on. Tom Nook, he's looking pretty tired this morning in his little shop. But you can tell on the ground here the details. Right? Yeah, Vupu says, looks generic. I mean, it kind of does, but I like the old school graphics here. Imagine this game if it were in like 1080p or even 4K. Can you imagine what this would look like? Live on Shadow says, I like the old school graphics. I do too, to be honest. It just brings back a lot of nostalgia. You can tell the details in the trees right here, and even down here on the ground. And of course, not everything looks as 3D back then as it does now, even with the flowers too. Okay, what about the sound? What do you guys think about the sound on this game from what you're hearing right now? To me, I think the GameCube Animal Crossing had a really good soundtrack. The hourly music, I don't think there was one hourly music that I didn't like on the first Animal Crossing game. Science says, old school graphics are nostalgic, so I like them. I agree 100%. But yeah, Katie says it's good for the time, right? Yes, for the time being, these graphics were, I guess you could say, revolutionary. And you can tell with the water back there, the water was actually flowing, and you can see the flow with the river there. Let's see what else. Let's look around the town over here. We got the dump right there. The sounds are so cute. The sound is nostalgic. But this is the origin of the great soundtrack of Animal Crossing right here. Anyways, I just want to say real quick, glad you guys are here. Thank you all for joining me on this live stream. We have exactly 1 week until New Horizons launches, and I know we're all super excited about this game, so that's why we're talking about all the Animal Crossing games right now, going through all the old ones leading up to New Horizons. We're going to be talking about New Horizons also here in just a little bit once we get through the main games of Animal Crossing. So we're just kind of going in order here. But there's a look right there at Animal Crossing population growing. The other thing I want to talk about for this game is the gameplay. So we talked about the graphics a little bit, we talked about the sound a little bit, and with the gameplay, I wrote down a few things I want to talk about. So with the buildings, I want to talk about the buildings first, because obviously in the first game, you don't have as many buildings as you do with the future games. So here's the buildings you have in the first game. You have the Nook store, which upgrades over time. You have the museum. You have the post office where you can pay off your mortgage, where you can send letters and receive letters. You have the train station. Let me pause it right here. Perfect. We have the train station, which is up here where you can go to people's towns. That's also where you come in at. The post office is right here with this letter. We have the museum, which is this icon right here. The Nook shop, I believe, is actually right here because this is the 4 houses for the main players in the game. We also have the tailor, which is the Able sisters down here. And of course, you guys know you customize different clothing items there. And then we have the wishing well, which is pretty much like the town square for the modern Animal Crossing games, where all the events happen, like the morning aerobics. And then we also have the dump, like we mentioned earlier. This is where all the items go. You could put all your items on the ground right here, and sometimes random items will show up and you could collect them. Excuse me. But if you leave it alone, of course the dump will take it away, and then you can't really get those items anymore. And then the last thing really is the lighthouse. I don't think it's on this map down here, but there's a lighthouse down there you can go to, which I believe is only active in the winter time, where a tour timer has you take care of the lighthouse, and then he gives you a special reward if you take good care of it. So those are some of the buildings in the GameCube Animal Crossing game, and we're going to look at the other games too, of what new buildings they have. But there's the buildings we have. Now, talking about a little bit about the features of Animal Crossing on the GameCube, because each game has different features that make the game unique. And starting out with the GameCube, if you guys have never played this one, the cool thing about this one is that there's little balls. I don't think there's anything in this video, but there's balls around town, like soccer balls, volleyballs, and they're about the size of villagers, so they're massive, big balls. We're talking big balls here. So you can actually kick those around town, and I thought that was pretty cool. You could kick them in the river. You could kick them into your villagers if you're a jerk. So that was a cool little Easter egg to have. Also, you guys may or may not have known, you can actually have a statue of yourself. If you pay off all your mortgage in this game, oh, there's a lighthouse down there. If you pay off all the mortgage in this game, you can get a golden, I believe it's a golden or a silver statue right in front of the train station. And so you'll get that erected from you. Tom Nook will go out there and be like, yo, bro, you pay off your mortgage. Here's a statue. I don't think I ever got to that point. I think I had to actually use like a Game Shark, like cheat codes to get to that statue. I never paid off my mortgage. I'm such a bad homeowner. The next cool thing you guys probably remember about this game, which is a really sweet feature, is the Nintendo games. You could collect, excuse me, you could collect Nintendo games. I believe there's like over 10 Nintendo games in this first Animal Crossing game you can collect. Things like Donkey Kong, tennis, golf. And to get that back then was really cool. And I don't really understand how you could have Nintendo games on the Animal Crossing game back then, but they can't give it to us in the new Animal Crossing games. Like, we're talking, this is 2001, they're giving us Nintendo games, and in 2020, I don't know, maybe in New Horizons they'll bring it back, I don't really know, I sure hope so. Maybe they'll even bring back N64 games. But you would think if they brought back Nintendo games in 2001, you think they would bring it to the new console 19 years later. And honestly, they probably have more Nintendo games on the Animal Crossing game than they do on the Nintendo Switch Online. Let's just be honest about that. So getting those Nintendo games was definitely a big bonus in this first game. A lot of people loved that. They were disappointed that it didn't come back in future games. Yeah, and we didn't even have a virtual eShop back then, says Fox Hero. That's right. Another cool thing about this game was the Game Boy Connect. You could actually connect your Game Boy, and you could go to a special island in the first Animal Crossing game. I never got to that point. I've seen gameplay of it, but you pretty much connect your e-reader to the GameCube with an adapter, and you could go to the special island in this Animal Crossing game. And on the island, you can collect fruit, and there was like a house there. I don't remember who was at the house, but but yeah, you can go to a special island, which that was pretty cool. And I believe it was Captain that would take you there too. Another cool thing is the glowing spots. This was the origin where the glowing spots began, and this didn't appear in New Leaf, I don't believe, but you guys probably saw a few videos about this in New Horizons, but there's actually a glowing spot on the ground that would pop up in this game, and you could dig up that glowing spot, and you would get a money bag. It could be 1,000 bells, I believe it was 10,000, or even 30,000. And I believe you could plant that again, and I think you could actually grow a money tree. So money does grow on trees, so don't listen to your parents. Another cool thing, we kind of talked about this earlier, was I mentioned they had the wishing well. They have morning aerobics there, the little morning activities, so that was really cool, getting to see the villagers interact and do different events at the wishing well. It would make you really excited to go down to the wishing well and see all the different events that would happen in the morning time. You guys might remember that. And then, of course, the other thing, excuse me, another cool thing that we had in this game was the gyroids, or gyroids, however you want to say it. And these gyroids would be outside your house. And let me see if I can find this in the trailer. I believe it was actually in the beginning. Let's see, right here. So this is where it first began, and this little guy right here, you could actually give him items, and he could hold them, and you can set a price for it, and then if you have a friend that's in this house or maybe one of these houses down here, they could go up to your gyroid and they could talk to him and they could buy the items that you had listed for sale. And he could also change a couple other settings too. But they never brought this back in Wild World and in future Animal Crossing games. They have them for decoration in those games, I believe, but they never had it next to your house. But that was really cool. You could always, whenever you're not talking to him, he's just kind of still. He's like dormant, and then whenever you talk to him, he starts dancing and stuff. But anyways, those are oh yeah, one more really cool feature about this game. I don't believe this ever came back in future games, but they had the monthly raffles at the Tom Nook's shop. Every month, Tom Nook would dress up. He would put a little hat on, and throughout the month, if you bought items at the shop, he would give you a monthly raffle ticket. And with that ticket, you could, throw it in the raffle. He would draw it out, and if you won, you got a really cool furniture item. And so that was something to look forward to too. You would always want to go to the shop and try and collect as many raffle tickets as you can so you could win. But anyways, guys, a couple more things about this game before we move on to the next game is the multiplayer. They didn't have multiplayer in this one, obviously because the GameCube didn't really have online. But they had, I guess the closest thing to multiplayer they had on here was the fact that you could have multiple people live in the same town at once. Like I said, you would have 4 houses, you could have 3 friends live in that town. You'd have to switch off, obviously. You'd have to save your game and then have someone else boot it up. But they could go to your gyroid, like I said, they could buy your items that you had for sale. So I guess that was the closest thing to multiplayer we had. They could also, whenever it's their turn playing the game, they can also plant flowers around your town, so you're really collaborating and being cooperative with the people that are living in your village. So although it's not like you're playing simultaneously, you're still working together to build up your town. The last thing is replay value. Back then, to me, I don't think they had a lot of buildings in this game to keep me around for a whole long time. So the replay value on this was decent, but I don't think it's anything near like New Leaf, because New Leaf has so many different buildings you can go in and explore, and so we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But for the time being, the first game was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. That's what got me into the series. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the first one. If you guys have anything you want to add about the first Animal Crossing game, let me know in the comments below. I'll read out your comments. If not, then we'll go ahead and jump on to the next game, but I'll give you guys a little bit of time to type in your comments. And if you have anything to say, just let me know. By the way, guys, while I'm waiting for you to type in your comments, if you haven't joined my Discord server, you can check out that in the comment section, or actually in the description box below the video. And you can join my Discord server where we have a community of Nintendo Switch gamers and also Animal Crossing fans that you can chat with. I'm on there as well, so I'll be happy to chat with you guys too. But go ahead and check that out if you haven't joined already. Yeah, Live on Shadow says you could go to other towns on other memory cards. That's right, I totally forgot about that. You could do that on this game. So I guess that's their way of doing the pre-Wi-Fi travel. Okay, guys, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next Animal Crossing game. Let me go out of that one, close that one out. Next video, we're going to go to Animal Crossing Wild World. And this game was on the DS, so pardon the small screen here, but that's how they had to capture gameplay back in the day. So talking about this one, starting out with the graphics here. The graphics, they definitely seem more pixelated than the GameCube one. But to me, I think it looks pretty appealing. But you can't really see a lot of detail in the background though, just because the lack of HD graphics on the DS. So it's fair to say the GameCube had a little bit better graphics than the DS one. And there's a look. We got the top screen with the sky. You got the stars up there and the moon. Then you got the bottom screen where you control everything. And this one came out in, I believe it was 2005. But to have it to go on the go, just put in your pocket, play anywhere you want, that was pretty cool for the time being. So for those of you guys who have played Wild World, what do you think about the graphics compared to the GameCube one? But for being a handheld, I'd say it was pretty good for the time being. The sound in this game was really good. The opening theme is probably my favorite out of all of them. The hourly music was really good, really chill. I think they did a pretty good job on the hourly music, pretty much in all the games. I think New Leaf, I'll get to that here in just a second, but yeah, the sound was really good in this one. It's kind of funny hearing the sound differences from it coming from the little speakers on the DS. You could tell that the quality of the audio was kind of diminished a little bit. Fox Shiro says they traded the resolution and graphics for portability, which was a good step, I think. I think so too. I mean, graphics and resolution, it's not everything. It comes more down to the gameplay of how fun it is. But yeah, to be able to take it on the go was definitely a good step. And that's how New Horizons is too. You can finally take that on the go too. Brittany, what's up? What's up, guys? Thank you all for joining on the stream. Good to have you guys here. Does anybody have any comments on the graphics of Animal Crossing Wild World, or anything about the soundtrack, or even the sound effects in this game before we talk about the gameplay? Yeah, by the way, if you guys want to get a snack, if you want to get some popcorn while you watch this and we chat about some Animal Crossing, go for it. I'm all for snacking. Katie says, cute graphics, wholesome. And I don't know what it is about the graphics. I mean, I just remember playing this at nighttime, when I was a kid, and the graphics were just so appealing to me. Even though they were pixelated and you couldn't tell a lot of details, I guess just with it being pocket size, it just seemed so cute. Just playing it on a smaller scale. I don't know. It's kind of hard to put into words. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about the buildings in Wild World. We have a few new different buildings in this. But first off, the ones that we already knew about, we have the Nook store, which you can upgrade. We have the museum, which we all knew about. We have the Able Sisters. We have the main gate, which is a different structure from the train station that we had in the first game. But the main gate is your way of accessing Nintendo Wi-Fi connection to travel to your friends' towns. I think that's pretty much the main function of that. And there's also the town hall, which is pretty much the same thing as the wishing well, but this is actually a structured building. Inside the town hall, you have the garbage can, or the dump, where you can access different items. And the new things in this one was the Nook store. So over time, if you upgrade the Nook store enough, you could actually get the Shampoodle, which you can customize your hairstyle more with that. And then inside the museum, you could get, the observatory was another part of that museum. Obviously, you could see the nighttime sky. If you made constellations in the observatory, you could just connect whatever of these stars you want to and just kind of draw something and make constellations. And whenever you draw it, it'll show up here on the top screen. So that was really cool for the time being. And then you could also name your constellations. And another cool thing about Wild World was inside the museum there was also the Roost. So we had that for the first time in this game, where Brewster made his first appearance, and you could go inside the Roost. That was my favorite place in this game, and you could buy coffee. You could sit down and just kind of chill, drink a cup of coffee. Brewster would get mad at you if you try and order behind the counter. He made you sit down first and drink your coffee. And then also on Saturday nights, KK Slider would be there at 8 p.m., I believe it was. And so that was just a really chill place. If you brought your friends into your town on Wi-Fi, you could just go in there and chill, listen to some awesome music by our boy KK, get that cup of coffee while you sit at the counter, because KK won't let you take it to go. He didn't let you do that till New Leaf. Comment real fast. Kyle says, I only play Pocket Camp. What do you think about Pocket Camp? I played it for a little bit, but it's not anything like a real Animal Crossing game. So yeah, I didn't play that for too long. It got really repetitive and really mundane, so I stopped playing that. Rachel says, I think you mentioned in an earlier stream that you're a PE teacher. Has your district extended spring break? Yes, I'm out for spring break this week, but yeah, they also extended my spring break till next week, which is insane. So I'm going to be off work to play Animal Crossing New Horizons on the Friday that it comes out. So I'm going to be streaming Animal Crossing New Horizons that day. You can guarantee it. So if you guys come back on next Friday, I'm going to be streaming some Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's going to be awesome. And Chelsea says, are you still doing the giveaway thing? Yes, it ends Sunday at midnight, Central Standard Time. Okay, and that was all the buildings in Wild World. Now I want to talk about some of the features in Wild World that was unique for this game. And if you guys have any comments about any of these features that we're talking about, any of the buildings, feel free to type in the comment section. I'm going to read your comments and I'm going to reply to your comments so we can have a discussion about it. But if there's nothing about the buildings you guys want to talk about, I'm going to talk about some features in Wild World. I mentioned the constellations. The constellations was a first for this game. We didn't have that in the first one, obviously. So I already talked about that a little bit. I already talked about you drink coffee. You could go inside the Roost and drink some coffee. KK Slider would be there each Saturday at 8 p.m. Also, like I said, there was online play. They introduced that for the first time in this game. You could go on Wi-Fi connection back in the day, and you can go to friends' towns. You can invite them to your town. You could roam around. You could actually type messages on your DS, and your messages would show up on screen. And that was a really cool feature you could have too on the game. So having online on this, even though you couldn't really do a whole lot online on Wild World like you could on New Leaf, which we'll get to that soon, but it was still really cool just having online on this game. Pretty revolutionary for the time being. Fox Hero says, I pray Brewster comes to New Horizons. I have a feeling that they're going to bring back all the characters somehow in New Horizons. They're going to feature some of them in some way. I don't know how, but I think he's going to come back in some type of way. And with how popular the coffee shop was being introduced in this, hey, there was a firefly. That's so random. With how popular it got starting out in this game, I don't know why they would not bring it back in New Horizons. I think they're going to expand it to be like a restaurant or some bigger type building other than just a coffee shop. Another new thing, obviously, which Wild World was special to it, was being touchscreen. With being on the DS, it totally changed the gameplay of Animal Crossing. You would use your stylus, you would drag it on the screen, you would move your character that way. Of course, you could also use the little gamepad too to move your character, but it just felt more fluid and it felt nice and it felt satisfying to use the touchscreen to be able to move with the stylus. And then you could click on the characters to talk to them, and you could drag your items in the item slots. And it made the gameplay a little bit easier, I guess. And you could see you could use your touchscreen right here. You could click on these different little items right here. You could drag the clothes on your character right here to put it on him. You could drag these bells down here to bring the bells in the item slot, which is really cool. So yeah, the touchscreen was a really cool thing. Also, you could use the touchscreen to draw patterns. If you went to the Able Sister shop, you have your little icon right here for your patterns, and being able to draw your patterns as opposed to just using the button layout on the GameCube whenever you made designs, it made it so much easier being able to actually draw it in Wild World. But the thing is, you couldn't draw like fluid. You couldn't do like these kind of motions because they were pixelated. They had to go like this, like left, up, right. So it was kind of stiff in that way, where you couldn't just free draw and do diagonal or like curved lines. That wasn't really possible back then. But of course, in New Horizons, that's possible now because it's 2020. Another thing that you guys probably noticed whenever you're watching this, another new feature they brought to this was that whenever you would move through the world would kind of scroll, because we know the Earth is round, it's not flat. So I'm not arguing with you guys. The Earth is definitely round. Animal Crossing proves it right here. You can tell they get closer in the distance as the world kind of revolves right here. I don't really know how to put that into words, but I love this feature. The GameCube was cool in the fact that whenever you move throughout the world, it had an acre system where the screen would kind of pause for a second, and then you would move to another acre, then it would pause for a second. It was cool back then, but it kind of got old how it would freeze up a little bit. But in this game, it would just felt more fluent. The gameplay would flow a little bit easier, and I thought it was just cool to see the trees go further away from you or come closer to you as the world would kind of scroll. After all, it is Wild World. So that was pretty cool. The other thing they brought to this game was the letter in a bottle. So sometimes the messages in a bottle would wash up on shore. In this game, it'd be just a random letter for somebody else. I don't know. I can't remember if it came from another person on Wi-Fi connection, or if it was just from a random, computer-generated type thing in the game. But they brought that back. They brought that in here in the first time in this game. And they're also bringing that back in Animal Crossing New Horizons. So I love how they're bringing in all these old things that we saw from past games, and they're bringing it over to New Horizons. All these old features being brought back is really nostalgic. And then the other couple things, they have some new items in Wild World. I think the only new ones they had in this game was the slingshot and the watering can. And with the slingshot, there would be sometimes, just some random balloons flying around. You guys probably remember this, and you could use your slingshot. You could just, flick it. You toss a rock or whatever he shoots up there, and if you burst the balloon open, you get a cool little present. That was really cool. And then the watering can, you could water your flowers for the first time in this game. If you didn't water it, then of course the flowers went bad. But those were the two new items they brought to this game. And that's pretty much all I had to talk about in this game. The multiplayer, we talked about that. The replay value, I think it's a little bit better in this game just because there's a few more stores to visit. There's a few more new features that will keep you preoccupied. And then, of course, you got the multiplayer. If you played with friends, that brought back some more replay value as well. So they take things up a notch in every single game, of course. If you guys have any comments, I'm going to read it off for Wild World, and if we don't, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next game. So I'll give you a little bit of time to type in your comments for Wild World if you have anything to say. Brittany says, it was always the worst when you left your slingshot at home. For real, you'd see a balloon flying around, and you'd be like, oh crap, I left my slingshot, I don't have it on me. And then you go back to your house and you get it. By the time you get back outside, the balloon's already gone. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely not a good place to be. All right, so we're going to move on now. We're going to talk about the next game, which is Animal Crossing City Folk. Now, let me go ahead and go to the video on this. Oh, good time with Wild World. And boom, that's gone. Now, on to City Folk. Okay. I gotta be honest, before we talk about this one, I'd never actually played City Folk. I saw my friend play it for a little bit, but I've never actually touched my hands on this game. But I can tell you this, out of what I've seen and based on reviews, this is a really straightforward game. It's really similar to the past games in the series up until this point. There's not a whole lot new here that it has to offer. There are a couple things though which we're going to talk about. I guess they just kind of expanded on a little bit. But they have the Nook store. Actually, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the graphics real fast. The graphics here, now obviously this quality on this video on this YouTube channel, it's in 360p, so this isn't doing the video actual justice of what the gameplay is actually like. But the graphics, they look fantastic. They're a step up from the GameCube. You can tell there's a little bit more detail in the items, with the characters, with the ground, the skies moving in the background, and the flowers look a little bit more detailed with the 3D aspect of it. So the graphics look good. They're colorful. The colors are vibrant. It looks really good to me. It looks like a, solid-looking Nintendo title right here. Good graphics for the time being. The sound on this game, like I said, I didn't really play this game, so I'm not too familiar with the sound. The main theme, I believe, it's the same as Wild World, I want to say, but it's different instruments playing the melody, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's right. From what I can tell with the sound that I'm hearing, though, it sounds great. It sounds like a relaxing game, like Animal Crossing should be. Nice sound effects. I'm not too familiarized with the hourly tracks, but if you guys have any comments on the soundtrack or sound effects, or with anything with the soundtrack, if you've played City Folk before, let me know in the comment section what you guys think. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it if you guys have ever played this before. So aside from sound and aside from graphics, the gameplay, which is the most important part to any game for me, because that's what makes the game fun or not fun, is the gameplay. The main thing they tried doing with City Folk is they tried adding the city aspect to it with the shops. And I want to see if I can find a little clip here in this YouTube video, and we're gonna see if we can see the actual city part of this. But they wanted to make this the main highlight of the game, where you could go to the city. There would be tons of different shops that you could explore there, and here's the shops that they had. Here was their idea with this game, and I don't think there's any footage in this clip over the actual city, so we'll have to pass on actually going to the city. But they had a Nook store, obviously. The Shampoodle was actually a standalone shop in City Folk. In Wild World, like I said, you could actually add that on with the Nook store, but they made that a standalone in this game. The museum in this game, they also had the observatory, they had the Roost, they brought those back. The Able Sisters was in the main world area. I'm going to tell you about other shops that were in the city part area here in a second. They had the main gate, they had the town hall, they had, so that's it for the main area. Now, with the city aspect of it, like I was talking about, this is the shops that they added. If you guys know Katrina, she's the fortune teller. They added Katrina's shop where you could go get your fortune told for paying the price of bells. They had Kicks where you could, I believe he sold shoes in that one as well. They had an auction house where it's kind of like retail in New Leaf, where you could place items for bid, and then people could go in and buy it. They had a Gracie Grace shop where she would sell really, really, really expensive items that college kids obviously can't afford because we're so poor. But in Animal Crossing, you can afford because they have better currency than we do in real life. So you could buy expensive items. There's like beds you could buy for 80,000 bells and like a crown and crazy stuff like that. So that was her shop. They also had the Happy Room Academy, which that's where they appraise your house. They give your house a score for, based on how organized your house is, based on, if you have like a full set of a certain type of furniture, they might give you a higher score. They also had a theater, which that's where Dr. Shrunk first appeared, and you would go see him. He would give you the emotions for the first time, so we had that in this game. And then there was also Crazy Red's shop, which you guys know Crazy Red. He sells the black market items, and so that's where he first appeared in this game. So like I said, the city part was the main aspect of this game. Other than that, and I mean, you saw Gracie come in past games, you saw Crazy Red in past games, you saw Katrina in past games, so there's not a whole lot new that City Folk had to offer in terms of buildings. Now, feature-wise, there was a couple new things. There wasn't really a whole lot. Other than the new shops, if you guys remember how horrible it was, they had the We Speak voice chat. Do you guys remember them advertising that for this game in the commercials? They would have like a little sensor bar you could put on your TV, and it was just a microphone. You could play online with your friends, and you would talk through the We Speak.